Hi everyone, thanks for joining me today. My name is Ewa, I'm a surface pattern designer and illustrator from Poland. Today in this tutorial I'm gonna show you my step-by-step process of how I create characters for children. I use these types of cute little characters, especially in my textile pattern designs, but of course you can use this knowledge to create any other kind of projects like book illustrations, wall prints, branding or anything you want. I'm so excited to show you guys how I do this, so let's get started. First step is understanding the story behind your illustration. This is really important because ultimately you are designing a character with its own personality, occupation, hobbies, and so on. So try and think of at least 3 traits that define your character, and that will guide you in your creative process. Based on their personality, also think of what your character is doing. In my example here, I came up with the idea of a cute little bunny girl enjoying her me time, reading a book and drinking tea. It's so me. The magic in this step is to think creatively and not be too rational. My characters are animals who drive planes, take balloon rides, dance, so think of a funny activity that your character can perform to give it life, personality, and charm. Try thinking like a kid again. The sky is the limit. Once you've defined your character, focus on the silhouette. Step 2 is creating a clear and dynamic pose. I tend to rely heavily on curved lines because that makes my characters more approachable and sweet. Shape theory is definitely important. As the base of the body, I always use this bean shape. It's a great starting point of creating any position. Try to give your character a pose that speaks of their personality and makes them easy to recognize. The way you can check your pose is by making the character all black, so now you can only focus on the silhouette. Can you tell what your character is and what they're doing just by the nature of the silhouette? If the answer is yes, then you're doing it right. Moving on, another great thing to keep in mind is to keep it simple. Try not to get lost into detail, because that is not the point when you design a character. When I draw all my animal friends, I don't draw things like their fur with the exceptions of a few subtle lines or individual fingers, or sometimes my characters don't even have a mouth. Children's characters are meant to be playful, and you don't have to spoon-feed every single detail. They don't have to be realistic. Leave room for imagination and focus on what the character symbolizes. And that's why I love the simplicity of vector design. The fewer unnecessary details, the sweeter the character will be. Speaking of sweet, you also need to think of proportions. There are some basic principles that you can follow to enhance the cuteness factor of your character, like a big head, small bodies, perfectly round shapes, as well as applying the triangle rule for placing the eyes, nose, and mouth. Here's a comparison of two characters. By applying these simple proportions, your illustration will be so much more children-friendly. Also, take a look at the triangle rule. It says that the smaller triangle made with eyes, nose, and mouth is, the cuter your character looks. Can you see the difference here? Even when we draw regular, not so cute eyes, the character looks definitely cuter when we place them right. And try using these tips to create a bunch of facial expressions. Is your character excited, surprised, proud, or relaxed? Try choosing an emotion that ties in with their personality. That is why the first step we discussed is so important. Every single thing you do after will relate to it. Now moving on to one of my favorite steps, which is color. It's really important to choose a color palette that speaks of the character itself and the environment that they're in. For my illustration, I chose a warm palette of beige and pink hues with a touch of blue for contrast. I want my illustration to be cozy and warm. I recommend you choose a very limited color palette because that will be easier to print, edit, and it will help you with focusing on the story. Once I have chosen my main colors, I create 2 shades of each hue to help me with the detailing and shading. I have chosen a light brown color for the bunny base, so I've added a darker brown in order to draw the details and shadows. And the background is light pink, so it matches my composition. When I choose a background color, I use another shade of any color from my palette, or I create a contrast with any other color. It's up to you, just make sure to keep the contrast in order to avoid different areas of your illustration blending in with each other. Plus, try gravitating towards pastels as they will help you make the character whimsical and sweet. Finally, as simple as your final illustration is, there are a few details you could focus on nonetheless. Here, in another example, I'm going to show you the difference that a few small yet powerful details can make. As you can see, here's a koala, but it can be so much cuter after adding some details. Using my color palette, I've added tiny fur lines with the pencil tool. Then I've added shading depending on where my light source is, which is from this angle. I used the pen tool for the shading because I really want these lines to look smooth. Much better, isn't it? These are the main steps or principles that I apply to my children's illustrations. The most important thing though is just to have fun, to experiment, to find your own unique style, because what makes your illustrations outstanding is your personality as a creator. Thanks for watching, I hope you find this insightful. Be sure to like, comment and subscribe. Bye!